Alright, kia ora koutou katoa. Welcome to your first flipped class. I think this is take 23 for me, so I'm just going to go for it. Any mistakes? Who cares? Right, so here we go. Alright, so welcome to your first flipped class. Now, as we said in the computer lab, this is really focusing on doing some of the content before we get to class so we can have engaging lessons when we're in the class or like practical tutorials. The first thing we're going to focus on for 3.9 is the biophysical principle of sports psychology. And under sports psychology comes goal setting, yeah? Now, goal setting is a really important tool for many athletes and people in general because it gives you focus, it gives you motivation, and it gives you direction, yeah? So take those into account when you're writing about, or writing your reflections in your journals. Now, 3 different types of goals that can be set by an athlete, and especially for us in terms of the Tough Guy, Tough Girl Challenge, are outcome goals, performance goals, and process goals. Now, outcome goals tend to be based on factors outside the direct control of an athlete. So we're talking about the judges, we're talking about the performance of others, maybe people that you're running against or other teams. They're based on things such as winning, making a particular team, etc. Yeah, so they're outcome goals, you know, winning a medal or something like that. They're the outcome goals. Now, in terms of Tough Guy, Tough Girl Challenge, these are quite difficult because we don't have any set criteria for achieved merit and excellence. Like we don't know what times we need to get an outcome, you know. So yeah, we'll talk about that soon. So performance goals is a little bit different. These are things we can focus on. So performance goals are based on personal performance, you know, things that you are trying to achieve, like the targets and skills that you want to obtain. You know, the athlete or yourself, you have personal control over the achievement of what you want. Yeah. So basically, it could be things like wanting to improve your trig run by a certain amount of minutes, or your beep test before the trig run. Those are performance goals. Those are your personal things that you want to achieve. Process goals are the actions you need to do in order to meet the performance goals that you have set. So basically, it's all these little processes, all these little training sessions, and how they're going to be put in place to reach your performance goal. So that these could be all your trainings, you know, like all the processes that you put in place, like, you know, what you're going to do for your next training session, all those little things. And it's really to give you more focus, more motivation and direction to get towards your personal goal, right? Now, in terms of the Tough Guy, Tough Girl Challenge, the main 2 that we are focusing on is performance and process goals, yeah? Now, some of you would have seen this next slide before, SMART goals, you know, and we need to set the SMART goal in our journal before we can kick on, right? So SMART or SMARTR means specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely, evaluate, revisit, or redo, right? So specific means we have a goal that is specific to us, or we have a goal that we are doing things that are specific to the event that we're going to, yeah? So, you know, why are we doing them for ourselves? In terms of the goal, it has to be measured. Like we have to know we've improved somehow. You know, what kind of level are we at next week in terms of the beep test? How can we measure things to know that we are improving? Yeah, so we can keep track of our progress towards our goal. Achievable, in a sense, means it's achievable for yourself. Yeah, so it's achievable and attainable. Like you need to set something that, in a sense, it kind of relates to realistic. Like you need to be able to achieve it. Yeah, which flows on to realistic. The goal needs to be realistic, given, you know, the attributes you bring to the goal. So you need to take in consideration like your strengths and your weaknesses. Like, so don't set a goal that you're strong in. You know, you need to find something that is realistic that you need to improve. You know, and then, you know, you'll end up finding things that, like certain barriers that you're going to face, and you need to localize like and find enablers that are going to help you get through those barriers, right? The time that we have is about, I'll say it's about 4 weeks now, 4 to 5 weeks. So plenty of time. Then I want you to really evaluate on a regular basis, like in each training session, evaluate the goal as we're going. So, did you achieve your process goal for that session? Like, why and why not, You need to look over the aspects of your planning to see, like, consider, like, what's working well and what isn't, and what do you need to change, right? And then you revisit, and then you might need to make a few changes for the next session. So once you have a goal, so a goal without a plan is just a dream, and it's only a dream until you write it down, and then it becomes a goal. So basically, you need to write this down. You need to put down on that second or third sheet in your assessment, like, you need to write down what specifically is your goal going to be. Yeah. So think about factors that might hinder your progress before you write them down. Like, think of the barriers. Think of things that are going to hinder your progress. Possibly your sporting commitments, schooling commitments, your attendance commitments, your focus, your attitude towards training. So you need to think about those things. Now, goals can be too hard, and when they're too hard, you could lead to the goal just being dismissed. Like, you just can't be bothered doing it. So don't make it too hard, yeah? Try and make it specific to yourself, but also make it challenging, yeah? Avoid setting too many goals, or a goal that is too hard to measure. So what I mean by that is you need to keep the process simple for yourself. Like, keep it so you're able to measure it. It's relevant to what we're trying to do. Yeah. Focus on a goal leading up to the Tough Guy, Tough Girl Challenge. All right, a target for you. So these are our process goals. So things you can look to do for your trig and your beak. Short-term goals for each training session, motivation, focus, direction, application. So, like, look for little process goals to help towards your performance goal. Now, frustration can kick in. Yeah. So, like, if smarter was just the key, we'd all be laughing. Yeah. So, like, here's my assumption. So, when setting goals, i.e., here's a typical one: New Year's resolutions. People invariably fail, which means, like, people always set New Year's resolutions, and not always, but a lot of people do, and they've set a smart goal. And so what's happening? So what factors may contribute to this, right? So there are limitations of simply just setting a goal, and we know that, yeah? So what it does, it requires an athlete to work towards that goal, all the while maintaining a sense of self-belief. Yeah, and how do we do that? And understanding that they have to have this understanding of what they are doing and why they're doing it. So it gives them kind of a intrinsic motivation, and so that they know, this guy has no idea what's going on. He's probably in a point where he's doing all this training, he has no idea what he's doing. So people need to have a process of, what they are doing and why they are doing it. So it keeps them on a focused plan, yeah? Which brings us to another acronym, which is the DREAM acronym, yeah? So people need to have a dedication, responsibility. They have to have education, attitude, and motivations towards their goal. Which means dedication they must be willing and must have commitment, despite potential pitfalls that they might encounter along the way. They must be dedicated. Yeah. They almost they must be responsible for their goals. And take responsibility for the goals. The goal must be about them and not the responsibility of others to achieve it for them. It's a big one. Yeah. Education. They should know what they're doing, why they're doing it. That's their intrinsic motivation. So they should be informed about the nature of what they're trying to attain. Yeah. The next one is the attitude. The attitude, requires a positive attitude towards the goal. And they need to realize that it's not going to be plain sailing. There's going to be, challenges and sacrifices along the way, which you guys have already experienced in some of the lessons. Yeah. And this last one, I've talked about it quite a bit, which is motivation. the best form of motivation for an athlete is intrinsic motivation. Some of you might know this, some of you might not, but intrinsic works better than extrinsic. Extrinsic means me motivating you while you guys are doing your training. Intrinsic is the opposite. Intrinsic motivation comes from within yourself and is generated by your personal reasons to do well, rather than rewards, rather than hearing me telling you you're doing awesome. Yeah, it comes from yourself. So for you to have intrinsic motivation, you need to know why you're doing it, and you know what's behind it. Yeah. Now, in your journal, you've got this statement here. Yeah, you've got in your journal, you must have use coherent, insightful reasoning to explain what biophysical and social cultural knowledge you will apply to devise the strategies and how they will meet your intended goal. Okay, for example, what you are doing and why you're doing it. So I've copy and pasted the sheet from the assessment, and obviously at the moment we're looking at sports psychology, which is goal setting. You all knew that. Yeah, you did. And, you know, we need to put some real substance into comment on the reasoning of sports psychology. And we've got our continuums here. And, you know, evaluate the positives and the negatives. So when you're doing this sheet and this part down here, think about these questions when completing this page here. So how can goal setting, SMART or DREAMer, those acronyms, enhance your goal success? Yeah, so how can goal setting enhance your goal success? You know, and what are the positives and negatives behind it? What's the positives around motivation? You know, what's the positives around focus? What are the negatives? You know, how does it help with motivation or focus? If we do not evaluate before our next training session, what risks do we run? So if we don't make changes in here, what happens? You know, maybe we don't need to make them. So tell me why. Why don't you need to make them? And, you know, maybe another question could be, what other reasonings are there to using goal setting? You know, do some research. Like, tell me some more reasoning around goal setting and around motivation. You know, it builds motivation, but tell me why. Like, who else agrees with you? What research can you get? Yeah. So this page is basically the bread and butter of the assessment. So you really need to focus on this page and write it well. Yep. So if you do have any questions around it, you might have some questions for your whisk sheet around this page. Yeah. So this is where the bread and butter is coming in. All right, team. So yeah. So I mean, go back through the video if you've missed anything, let me know. But that's basically it in terms of goal setting. Make sure you have a goal set at least by Wednesday, by the time that we're doing our practical. I need to know that all of you have a goal, and we're going to hit the ground running this week. So we're on the plan towards our Tough Girl Challenge. All right. So thanks for today, team, and I'll see you at school.